This video is brought to you by Boosteroid. All footage from Arkham Origins was recorded thanks to their services, so stick around to the end of the video to find out more.
Supposed to be his same house. Or Black Man. He's got problems of his own, I'd say. Someone broke in there.
It appears the game is over before it even begins.
I'm not playing games, Slade.
We're all pretty familiar with this scene. Two warriors, two gladiators, and one of the most epic showdowns in the entire Arkham series. Two expert fighters locked in a one-on-one duel. Two DC icons in a battle for the ages. Critics will say the fight is too easy, too simple, that it's just one glorified QuickTime event. While some of their points may have a bit of truth, I don't think that takes away from what this fight was able to accomplish. Never before have we had a boss fight like this, and considering it was the first and last of its kind, it does a very good job of delivering the promised experience. When it comes to Deathstroke in the Arkham series, almost anyone you ask will immediately think of this fight, to absolutely no one's surprise. Many are quick to put this on their list of top 5 Arkham bosses, and while it's not my number one, there are quite a few fans who would put it at that top spot. In fact, this whole boss fight is so iconic that it may leave many to wonder why he wasn't in any Batman game before this one. There are many possibilities. Perhaps the character's link to the Teen Titans made it harder for Rocksteady to associate the mercenary to the Dark Knight. Maybe Origins was just a better match due to its more grounded story. Or maybe Rocksteady just didn't have time to incorporate a character this well known into their games until Arkham Knight. Regardless of the reason, we were lucky enough to get Deathstroke in 2 Arkham games, and while one appearance is well respected, the other is not remembered as favorably. So with only 2 games to consider, how well was Deathstroke actually utilized? That's what I intend to find out, and while you very well may come to a different conclusion, allow me to entertain you while I attempt to determine whether or not Deathstroke was underrated or underused. Starting off with the basics, the design of the character is basically picture perfect. The balance of comic book accuracy and grounded reality, matched with just the right combination of orange and gray, makes the costume iconic and equally stellar. His look matches perfectly with the art style of both games, and I honestly don't think they could have done a better job. Mark Rolston is fantastic as the voice of Slade Wilson, delivering a performance that matches the calm and collected tone of a professional assassin, while being paired with enough malice to make you take him seriously. Along with most of the characters in this game, Deathstroke's design, voice, writing, and appearance is done extremely well, making it my favorite Deathstroke design in any form of DC media. In terms of Arkham Origins, Slade's entrance is equally as impressive. The game is able to showcase his skills without discounting the Dark Knight's own abilities, and his first cutscene leads both characters into a fight straight away. There's not a lot of build-up, considering we've only seen a small bit of what Slade has to offer, but despite the limited amount of material we have on the assassin, we already get the impression that this fight is important. The entire setup is masterfully done. From an intense interrogation to a quick and deliberate strike, matched with an equally impressive counterattack from Batman. The Cape Crusader glides down to the boiler deck below, and Slade jumps down to confront his target. As the player, you've already been here before, besting the Electrocutioner in a somewhat difficult boss fight, then dismantling dozens of thugs with ease. You were a force to be reckoned with, and no one could have stopped you until you had reached your goal, but now the tables have turned. This isn't just a boiler deck anymore, it's a coliseum, with Batman and Deathstroke being the gladiators. The roars from a crowd seeking entertainment have been replaced with the dull clang from the ship's interior. As the music intensifies, the 2 warriors circle each other, assessing their opponent, analyzing distance, weapons, position, everything, and anything that might give them an advantage. Slade draws his sword, pointing it at the Dark Knight, voicing his confidence that this fight is already over. In his eyes, he sees Batman as nothing more than a target. Price tag, another $50 million to be added to his bank account, but Bruce knows better. If you weren't already excited for what was going to happen, this cutscene will certainly get the job done for you. It perfectly sets up a fight that's completely and fundamentally unique when it comes to every other boss in Arkham. There are no giant brutes, no thugs to occupy your attention, no projectiles to evade from, no hallucinations, no enhancements, just 2 of the best hand-to-hand fighters in the world, locked in an intense duel of strength and willpower. One of them is a mercenary with many kills under his belt, while the other is an arrogant crime fighter with much to learn, yet here their paths have crossed. And then the fight actually starts. The gameplay perfectly matches the hype leading up to it. Slade's attacks are aggressive and appear quite often, but not enough to discourage you from taking an offensive approach. The timing needs to be intentional. The game actively punishes you for missing a counter or spamming the Y button. Your guard needs to constantly be up, while looking for an opening to make attacks of your own. Whether it's a series of quick animations that require precise timing, or a sudden use of the remote claw to catch you off guard, Slade is constantly using his skills and weapons against you, as you try to counter with your own arsenal of gadgets and abilities. I don't even mind that the beatdown sequence is a direct copy of the Ra's al Ghul fight, as it's equally as cool as its predecessor and provides a good transition point between phases, not to mention it just feels awesome. One small detail I love is how Slade starts the fight by sheathing his sword and using his staff instead, thinking the fight to be an easy one, only to be forced to use his sword after seeing how capable his opponent truly is. I might be reading too much into it, and it was probably just a result of the cutscene and gameplay not quite lining up, but it's cool to think about nonetheless. The third phase is even harder than the last two, as his sword attacks are much quicker and more aggressive. I highly encourage everyone to try this fight on New Game Plus, or even try the fight without getting hit, as both challenges are extremely satisfying to pull off. Throughout the whole encounter, Deathstroke continues to mock Batman and remind him of how inexperienced he is, making the Dark Knight's eventual victory even more gratifying. Each phase completed is marked with the beatdown and a significant event occurring, whether that be Slade's mask being ripped off, his bow staff being broken in half Bane style, or Batman holding Deathstroke's sword with just his hands. After Slade's health bar is depleted, the fight concludes with one of the coolest cutscenes in the whole game. To Deathstroke, the encounter was supposed to be a game, but now Batman is done playing. Slade has seen Batman's true skill, and is now in shock and utter confusion. I'm not the first to notice this, but I think it's absolutely brilliant how Batman throws the sword towards Slade's left side, taking his one eye off his opponent and making him unable to see the final blow before it's too late. If there's one word to describe this fight, besides epic or amazing or stellar or any other adjective that could try to put this fight's awesomeness into words, it would be cinematic. From the build-up to the gameplay to the payoff, everything is well paced and delivers one of the most iconic boss fights in the entire series that is still talked about to this day. I'm honestly kind of glad that we don't have anything similar to this fight, because I don't think anything can top it. This is getting more into my own personal opinion, but even though I believe that this fight is amazing and easily a top 5 boss fight in the Arkham series, if not top 3, I personally don't think it's the best, simply because I think it's a bit too easy. Once again, still an amazing fight, but I found myself mastering this fight very quickly despite playing on a higher difficulty. I might get into more details in a later video, but Mr. Freeze still takes the top spot in my book. If you like Deathstroke's fight even more, that's awesome, because different bosses are going to appeal to different people. I do think Mr. Freeze and Deathstroke's fights are at their best in New Game Plus, and I hope that most players are able to experience that difficulty for themselves. Once again, regardless of how I rank it among the rest of the Arkham series, it's still a very well done boss fight that should always be praised for its brilliance. Now, as for afterwards, Slade doesn't make an appearance until the very end. On one hand, it's a bit disappointing that we can't see more of Deathstroke after that stellar fight, but on the other hand, I'm glad that he didn't overstay his welcome, as he probably would have clashed with Bane and Joker's storylines. Near the end of the game, at Blackgate, we found out that Joker won't even let him out of his cell, once again solidifying Slade's reputation as someone that shouldn't be messed with. His final appearance in Origins is a post-credit scene teasing the Suicide Squad that hasn't really gone anywhere as of yet, but with him being rumored to be a DLC character for Suicide Squad Code the Justice League, I wouldn't be surprised if we can play as him in the future. As of writing the script, nothing has been confirmed, but if you want to see my thoughts on his character in Suicide Squad, I'll probably put it in a pinned comment or make another upload if there's something either bad or good that warrants its own video. I'm assuming he'll be an Elseworlds character and not the main Arkham Deathstroke, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now obviously Deathstroke isn't in Asylum or City, but with Rocksteady working on Arkham Knight while Origins was being released, this was the last opportunity for Slade to appear in the Arkham series. One thing I think is really cool is the fact that he's actually teased well before his appearance in the game. There's some dialogue between a few militia troops talking about an assassin who works for Scarecrow, and it's a very small detail that probably went unnoticed by most players. While taking out militia outposts, bombs, lieutenant vehicles, and blockades, the Arkham Knight constantly calls out Batman, continuing to taunt the Dark Knight or even express frustration for the incompetence of his men. It's something that you get used to very quickly, so when Jason is defeated in the main story, finding out the identity of the militia's new commander is a welcome surprise, assuming you weren't spoiled before this point. Besides a few lines of dialogue, nothing would lead us to believe that Deathstroke is the one behind the scenes, but once he's revealed, he takes the place of the Arkham Knight and reacts to your ongoing war against the militia. The one key addition to these bits of dialogue is Slade constantly mentioning the past fight on Christmas Eve, and how things have changed since then. Batman. After taking out every single side mission involving the militia, the whole arc ends with a boss that's basically an easier version of the Cloudburst fight, and then we take him to GCPD. If you think that explanation was a bit rushed and anticlimactic, that's probably because it's exactly what this boss is. Now everyone knows that this fight sucks, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I'll quickly go over the important stuff. Even though every single militia side mission is building up towards this fight, we don't actually see Deathstroke in person until right before we take him out like he's in the WWE.
Andy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out! KO! Here's the cover!
And not only does the fight only involve tanks, but there's nothing new to this encounter. There's no real change in strategy, gameplay, or scenery, and to call this a fight is a bit generous. Okay, now that I've addressed the obvious, what could have been done to fix this boss? Well, I have a few ideas, and it kind of ties into my Arkham Knight video as well. Go check that out if you haven't, linked in the description. First, I would make Deathstroke the militia commander from the get-go. Next, I'd incorporate more scenes involving Slade into the main story, including ones with him actually in the same room as Batman. I'm pretty sure Deathstroke is the one who saves Jason from the Joker anyways, so rework the story to where Jason is supplying Slade with information about Batman, before he clashes with Deathstroke and Scarecrow in terms of motivation and method. Then for most of the game, Deathstroke leads the militia while the Arkham Knight acts as a third party fighting for no particular side, but wanting to push Batman over the edge and convince him that he has to kill his enemies to truly stop them, which would also tie into Batman's eventual transformation into the Joker. The key difference for the Arkham Knight would be that Batman knows his identity early on. This would make the Joker hallucinations involving Jason's backstory have a lot more emotional weight, and it would allow for some great dialogue opportunities, including Jason's reaction to the Joker's death. Near the end of the game, both Jason and Bruce form a reluctant alliance to take down Scarecrow before Jason disappears and Bruce activates Nightfall. I know this kind of turned into more of an Arkham Knight rewrite, but it's important when you consider that Deathstroke has taken the Knight's position of Scarecrow's right-hand man. Now, in terms of how the actual boss fight could be different, there are a lot of great ideas online, and I wouldn't go so far as to claim that what I'm about to propose is original, but here are some thoughts I have. The setting would most likely be a rooftop, with the Gotham skyline and heavy rainfall creating the perfect backdrop for the ultimate rematch. Slade would use his bow staff and sword, and he might even use a shield and something with electricity. He can switch between these weapons at any time, similar to how brutes do it in the actual game. This will force you to constantly change your strategy while rewarding you for being intentional with your moves and punishing you for mindlessly spamming buttons. One thing I think would be really cool is if after Deathstroke drops a weapon, it glows blue, indicating that it can be picked up and used by Batman for a limited time, just like baseball bats and crates in the actual game. The Clayface fight from Arkham City has already shown us how epic Batman is with the sword, so imagine using Slade's own weapons against him. Now this next part isn't necessary, but since we've established Deathstroke as the leader of the militia, you could treat this like Taskmaster from Marvel's Spider-Man, where after taking out a certain number of militia outposts, Batman is ambushed by Deathstroke, leading to a mini boss fight. Each encounter introduces a new weapon that Slade can use, eventually building up to the final fight where he has access to all his weapons, and maybe an additional new item to keep you on your toes. Once again, these aren't necessarily original ideas, so I'd encourage you guys to check out other people's thoughts on how to do this fight better, and I might even link a few of those ideas in the description. But forget about ideas and theories. When it comes to the actual fight, it's just Cloudburst 2.0, and it did not leave players satisfied in the slightest. The closest fight I can equate to this is Titan Joker from Arkham Asylum. Both are too simple, not a good fit for the character, and feel forced into the game at the last minute when we didn't really need them. It seems funny how Arkham Origins has a lot less build-up but an incredible payoff, while Arkham Knight has plenty of build-up and a very lackluster payoff. So where does this leave us? Is Arkham Deathstroke underrated or underused? When it comes to time, especially seeing him in person, there's not a lot to work with, but that's not necessarily a bad thing on its own. Professor Pig is a character with a lot less time to shine, but still has one of the most memorable side missions in Arkham Knight. Some characters only appear in 1 or 2 games but leave a lasting impact on players, while others are forgotten as quickly as they appear. It mostly comes down to how the time given for a character is used and whether or not it works in the context of the game. For Deathstroke, it's honestly a bit of both. His debut is sensational, but his send-off was lacking in more ways than one. Both times he is defeated by Batman, but while one feels earned, the other feels like a missed opportunity, making me wonder if both of these appearances cancel each other out. However, with all these factors put into consideration, here's my answer to the question in the title of this video. I believe Deathstroke is underused in Arkham, not because of the execution of his appearances in the series, but because of the missed opportunity to use his character at his maximum potential. The missed opportunity in question is the fact that Deathstroke never gets to be a main threat for very long. Sure, he's supposed to be a gun for hire, but I believe this character is at his strongest when he gets to be front and center, where we can really feel his his impact. In other words, we've seen him in person for a few moments throughout Arkham, and that can work very well, but the series has never got to show Deathstroke for an extended period of time, which could have shown some interesting narrative opportunities for the deadly assassin. Back to the previous point, while Professor Pig works well with a one-time appearance, Deathstroke can be used for ones that are both short and long, but unfortunately, Arkham only uses one of those. Night doesn't count because we only see him in person for a few seconds, and all the dialogue before the fight is not even close to the potential you could get from a longer storyline. I'm not saying that he has to be the main villain. Joker and Scarecrow covered the job very well, but I think the series would have greatly benefited from giving him more time as a driving force in that story. For an analogy, I want his involvement to be closer to Bane in Arkham Origins rather than Killer Croc in Arkham Asylum. Both characters have iconic appearances, but Croc is a one-time encounter while Bane is constantly trying to break the Dark Knight's spirit, and back in the process. That is exactly what I would have wanted to see from Deathstroke, besides the back-breaking part. And I think Night would have been the best game to incorporate that idea. One of the most skilled mercenaries in the world, constantly showing up and being a legitimate threat to Batman while keeping the player on edge, always wondering when he's gonna show up next. I want to see Deathstroke target those closest to the Dark Knight, wearing him down both physically and mentally. It's not just a contract, now it's personal, and you feel that for a good part of the game. So basically the Arkham Knight, but with an established character and no mystery to get in the way of the story. While Origins especially uses Deathstroke well, I think the Arkham series would have greatly benefited from seeing a longer storyline from Slade Wilson. Maybe that's a bad idea, and I don't know any better, but those are just my thoughts. Regardless of how his story ended, I'm really grateful for the stuff we got, which was a stellar boss fight and a new character that players can say is their favorite. And sometimes, that's all you need. If WB ever makes another Arkham game in between Origins and Asylum, I would love to see them incorporate Deathstroke into that game. I think that would be awesome.
Well, you won't have to worry about that anymore. Not unless someone else puts up 50 million bucks.
I wasn't worried.
Dang it! If WB ever makes another Arkham game that's set after the events of Night, I would love to see them incorporate Deathstroke into that game. If it's a new and less experienced persona underneath the cowl, it would be really cool to see Slade make the new Batman his target, constantly taunting him and comparing him to his predecessor. Sure, he'd be kinda old, but I feel like it could work pretty well, and there's still a lot of potential in such a story. Anyways, let me know what you think of Deathstroke in the Arkham series. How would you compare him to his appearances in other games, movies, and shows? Which version of Deathstroke is your favorite? Thanks for watching, and a sincere thank you for 10,000 subscribers. You guys are amazing, and I want to express my gratitude to every single one of you who has seen my silly videos. Have a great rest of your day, stay awesome, and now I get to tell you about Boosteroid. Now, as a big Arkham fan, I would love to play Batman Arkham Origins whenever I want, but I can't since it hasn't been remastered on PS5, and I don't have my Xbox 360 with me at college. Ideally, it would be nice to have the game on PC, but my laptop doesn't have the technological capabilities to run the game correctly, and I really don't want to have to purchase a gaming PC right now. Boosteroid is a subscription-based cloud gaming provider that allows you to play a wide selection of already purchased or free-to-play games on Steam through an online server. Because it's through the cloud, you don't need to have a high-powered PC, as Boosteroid does all the work for you. You can pay a monthly subscription or a yearly purchase to use Boosteroid whenever you want during that period. They were kind enough to let me try out their service for myself, and it was very easy to link Boosteroid to my Steam account. I bought Arkham Origins and didn't even have to download the whole game. All I had to do was open Boosteroid and voila, I could play Arkham Origins on my laptop. Keep in mind that the gameplay is dependent on the connection and device of the user, so make sure to put that into consideration before purchasing a subscription, and make sure to use their free connection tester that they have on their website, linked in the description as well. While performance varies based on connection, I was pleasantly surprised with my experience, even though my Wi-Fi connection on campus isn't the best. Thanks to Boosteroid, I'm able to play Batman Arkham Origins without needing to buy a high-quality gaming PC, and their servers cover a vast amount of games all available after purchasing on Steam. As with any cloud gaming service, make sure that your connection and device can properly make use of Boosteroid. Check the link in the description to try out their services or to use their free connection tester, and thanks again to Boosteroid for sponsoring this video. Hello everyone, this is Caleb, also known as Vigil. About a week ago, I crossed 10,000 subscribers, which is honestly crazy to think about. I would never have expected to be in this position, but I feel super blessed to have so many people watch my videos, and it means a lot. So I want to thank every single one of you guys. You guys are amazing. So I have a lot of videos planned. I think the big thing is I am working on another Arkham game, No Damage. I'm working on that right now, going through, getting better, doing a few attempts, that kind of thing. The goal is to eventually finish the challenge and the video and release it next January, but we'll just see, because I don't have a lot of time to work on that, so hopefully I will. But until then, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.